Guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. It is already that time again. It is the 1st of April, meaning we have our brand new tier list out. Now, this tier list is based in utility, and even looking at the newest hero that we have within AFK Arena, I'm seeing a little bit of play, in that back middle section as a really direct damage, but as a buffer, and also running him as the king in that 4th position in the back middle. And he is falling right into the SS tier, which I think might be a little overrated at this point, but I'm not sure because I haven't used him in too many times. But let's go ahead. I want to break down this tier list because there are a few changes in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, guys, so here we are over on Tier Maker, breaking down this tier list like we do every single month. And you'll notice there are quite a few changes that I want to go over. And looking at the very first one, so we have Liberta, and it's incredible in this top left section that he is still used in every single game mode. We are seeing him on the tier list that he scores an absolute perfect score of being and having a high utility in every single game mode, which is the same with Aurelia. Now, one thing to note with Aurelia is she does require a plus 40 signature item to have the utility that we need to see within this hero, and you'll really see her underperform if you do not have that plus 40 signature item built out. Then we have Envy. Envy now is into pretty much every single place that we see within AFK Arena, is being run best in slot in a ton of different game modes. Utility for this one, and as you can see, he is now the highest utility awakened hero that we do have, even edging out that awakened version of Athalia, who is dominated. Now, doesn't mean by any means that awakened version of Athalia has any less really versatility in a lot of different groups, but Envy is super broken when you look at the damage that he's putting out. And of course, in relationship to the awakened version of Athalia, is going to stay with a lot more because the awakened version of Athalia is already, a year old at this point. We know replace the newest one with Zora that we got. So it means power creep is very susceptible when it comes to the damage dealers. Then we have Lucilla. This is another one that works incredibly well with Liberta, but the ability to come back to life to buff up the way that she does works super well in pretty much every single game mode. Same with Lan, being a Draconic, being a support, still seeing a ton of utility in there. And we had questions about building out the engraving. Now the engraving, the E30 does work very well. A lot more prone towards the treasure scramble or the PvP aspect, but it still does work incredibly well in a lot of different game modes. But it also adds a tremendous amount of stats within this hero, making it vital to have. Then we bring Misha. So Misha is an addition to this top SSS tier. Now does require a super high defensive build, but when you look at where this hero is being used, it's kind of crazy about everywhere, not only being run with like a Skyland, also the awakened version of Iran, but also being run in a lot of different formations, including some of the formations that we're seeing with Envy being run together. Demia still stays in this SSS tier again as a buffer, as do a damage dealer, as the survivability of the team. Lavatoon still super strong as a buffer, allows you to amplify damage like no other. It's kind of crazy how effective this hero is. And then Leica still stays in here. So we do have 3 awakened heroes that still stay in this very top SSS tier. Leica not only doing damage, but also very unique, again, in the energy regeneration she provides, the damage, the delay coming into the battlefield, the damage mitigation. A lot of things make Leica not only as a damage dealer, but also has a ton of utility. Now, getting to the SS tier, we have Randy right here. Again, utility-wise, super broken in a lot of different game modes. Still seeing a crazy amount of utility, if not the best in slot damage dealer, even a secondary or sub best in slot damage dealer used in every single game mode. Same with Zora, still seeing a lot of utility. Now, this, of course, is the newest Celestial Awakened hero that we do have. Again, we talked about this during the live stream where not really the best in slot damage dealer, but definitely a secondary damage dealer to really end up and really scale that high end damage. You're not going to see her topping the meters, but she'll always be slightly below one of those other high damage dealers. Rimuru, even though a mage, still a lot of the support aspect. Same with Amelia. Crowd control for a lot of these heroes is imperative, and she provides not only the energy regeneration, but she also provides a lot of utility or a lot of survivability because of the crowd control aspect that she does have. Then we're looking at Jerome when it comes to light bearers, when it comes to buffing, used in a lot of different formations. A lot of players are using Jerome, even again, running with Envy, running in a couple formations to boost the top end damage we're seeing. Awakened version of Belinda, even though it's an old hero, still doing a lot of damage. If you don't have a lot of these Awakened heroes built, just because you're an older player and you built Belinda when she was absolutely at the top of her prime, still going to do incredibly well in a lot of game modes. Shuna, an amazing support. Same with Ivan. Ivan provides the energy regeneration and the shielding. Again, survivability for a lot of these heroes to make sure that they can put out that top end damage that we've seen. Same with Gavis, very similar to Rimuru. A lot of utility, a lot of survivability is the reason why players run Gavis. PvP, definitely a hero to have within PvP. Then we have Nox within the SEAL team, within the buffing. Nox is crazy and crazy difficult to kill if you fought him in PvP. He is a very unique build for the hypos, but runs around like absolute crazy. Then we have Palmer in here as a buffer. Not only the crit damage amplification, does super well in formations. Again, raising up that top end damage that we're seeing for a lot of these heroes. Aethys, super solid tank, one of the best tanks we've seen in a long time when it comes to crowd control. When it comes to survivability, does very well. Now here we have Halia. Halia, of course, Highborn Draconic hero, super expensive to build, but we are seeing her best in slot in a couple different teams within the Curse Realm, Nightmare Corridor, also seeing play within the Treasure Scramble. So utility-wise, still has a considerable amount. Same with Scion. We are seeing Scion as best in slot in a couple different damage formations, working incredibly well, doing damage just like he was really built with the crit and the crit damage amplification. Now, Rem's still in here. Again, if you don't have a lot of these high damage dealers, Rem is still going to work in a lot of different formations. Fundamentally, with the power creep, she's starting to drop down the tier list a little bit, but the damage is still there. Then we have Naruko as a tank, as a buffer, as a healer, as pretty much everything you need. Nadia is still super broken in there, which works very well. Now here, like we were talking about, right in the SS tier, they drop Lysander. Overall, not seeing a ton of utility or formations, but remember, super early with the hero itself, and we have not seen the multitude of iterations. I feel like at this point, haven't really found a solidified place for this hero where he's going to be fit into, but a lot of players, again, utility-wise, are saying putting him in that king position in the back to be a buffer. Also does provide some direct damage, which if you put him in another position, mainly into the 3 or the 5, is doing some decent direct damage. Now, Thorin, very unique in the methodology, how he works, killing himself, coming back to life, but again, we're still seeing him in a lot of formations. The Awakened version of Shmira, the exact same. Very unique with her being intelligence and a tank, and of course, keeping heroes alive when they die within combat does make it a very unique, as well as the energy disintegration, which completely dominates PvP. Now, Skyland in here, again, another Highborn Draconic hero. If you do not have Skyland, Iran is really the substitute. Or if you do not have Skyland, Scion can also be the substitute as a damage dealer in here. Thing with Scion, same with Lucius, same with Iran, is issues with survivability. If you're fighting any group or any combat, that is a burst damage. He is going to get just melted, and he does. That is the reason why Ulna still has a lot of utility, is for the simple fact of keeping these big, high damage dealers alive through an extended amount of combat, allows them to do the damage that we want to see. Now, the Awakened version of Lucius, this is another one, requires a pretty big build. Looking at Eugene, again, secondary in some formations, seeing a lot less utility as we're getting new heroes to AFK Arena. And then Iran, we are still seeing damage and utility with this hero in quite a few game modes. Moving into the S tier, Trishia is slowly moving down again. Trishia with the energy regeneration that she does, and also amplifying the damage of the original version of Baden in some formations. Now we have the Chad right here, better known as Vathiel, again as a buffer, as a damage dealer, as a secondary kind of hero out there. Still does well if you don't possess all of the other support heroes and the support mages that we were talking about. Now, Adrian Elise, this is one very interesting, does require very similar to what we've seen with Aurelia, does require a plus 40 signature item, or the hero doesn't fundamentally work. You won't get the damage that you need to out of your ranged heroes if he does not have the plus 40 signature item. So it does require a little bit of a bigger build out. Hildwyn, another mage, does damage, can be a secondary damage dealer, but also does a lot of survivability in there. The Awakened version of Sophia still kind of sliding down on the tier list a little bit more. Not seeing it used as many places. Now, Mauler Tower, 1000% absolutely going to be used. Niche formations possibly being used as they continue to introduce new heroes, but overall not seeing a crazy amount. Then we have the the Awakened version of Baden, utility-wise, has been replaced in formations by Halia. Seen them run together every now and then, but not concrete into what that formation is really going to look like. Awakened version of Solus, this is another one that, again, utility-wise, I'm still seeing some pretty decent utility out of a first-generation Awakened hero, but overall starting to fall down the tier list. Nyla as a secondary damage dealer. Gwen now down to the S tier, even below Hildwyn, because again, power creep, she is starting to be replaced by Skylin and by Scion and by Halia in a lot of those formations. Tamarisk, crowd control, enthusiasm buffer, which I like. Kelthan, absolutely required for some crowd control damage. Antandra, niche in some formations at best. Meleon seeing a little bit of really holding on because of Halia, because of Scion, because of the ability to buff up the Draconic heroes. Rosaline, utility-wise, still not going anywhere to buff. Only keeps targets alive. We have the 30% increased damage if you do have Rain built out. Lady Simona, again, as a substitute energy disintegration, usually run with that Awakened version of Shamira. Goran in here, we're still seeing him every now and then as a buffer. Rowan as a buffer, Mortis again as a buffer. Scarlet still does very high-end burst damage. Nightmare Corridor, absolutely. Then we look at Orin and also Silas to finish out the S tier. Now, the rest of the tiers, I want to kind of go and point out just a couple of our really, really strong heroes, or heroes that we're seeing kind of in niche formations, and that's exactly what you're going to see. Because when we look in here, looking at like a Vika, still used in a couple niche formations, still does pretty well in a few different places. Awakened version of Thane, the exact same. Still seeing, again, niche formations, best in slot in some, but very, very few. Even looking here at Sheltier within PvP, Treasure Scramble, absolutely broken. This hero was built, this hero was designed very similar to like a Lucilla. Very strong within the PvP aspect, but outside of that, any other game mode, not really making a difference, not going to have and put out enough damage. We want the survivability, we want the ability for this hero to actually come back to life, is what we see. Getting down into the B tier, most of these, again, are going to be used maybe tower formations. Even looking here, Mira continues to drop down short of the tower and possibly a campaign formation, which again, at that point, she is just kind of a substitute overall. Greyborn Tower, absolutely, just because of the limited heroes that are in there, but overall not going to see a ton of utility. Now, Mahira is still in here, still used in campaign formations. On the original version of Baden, still kind of broke in that formation where they are running Trishia. Most of these, again, not seeing a lot of play many places. Even looking at Taylene possibly as the stall team, or the stall team, possibly even looking at Thorin as a possible stall within here. Now, when we get into the C tier, these are most of them that are going to be your filler heroes, where if you are putting them in formations, most of the time it's just going to be tower formations. I don't know any of these that are being used in any regular formations. Every now and then one of them pops up, even if it is very short-lived. Looking at our D tier, which is the bottom tier in here, these are the ones probably wouldn't even recommend for tower formations anymore, just because you have a bulk of these heroes that are going into the C tier. And again, this is based on utility in its entirety, looking to where exactly these heroes do fall. So, all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.